Yeah? Yeah?
DORICO.
Oh, Dorico. So, all right. So anybody's used Dorico? Okay, but did you just buy it and then you didn't use it? That's why I'm here.
That's why I have your email.
That's why you want my email address. Right. So basically what I'm going to do today is kind of talk you through some things about things you can do in Dorico and how you're going to actually use it. Because whatever you might already be using something else, but I can hopefully show you a bunch of things that you can do in Dorico, things that will be hopefully useful to you and the situation you've got, and the fact that you've all got the same deadline we have, that of Sunday. It's just my Sunday happens before yours by 6 hours, but that is not an excuse for you to do it really last minute. And according to the app I've got on my phone, apparently I'm playing this Sunday, which is why I'm on a flight home in 24 hours time. In fact, yes, literally 24 hours time. I'm out here. Also, my son starts a new school on Thursday, and I should just about make it back in time to take him to school on Thursday morning, maybe, if all the flights are okay. So basically, I'm a keyboard player and sax player. I work on the Dorico team, so most of the time I'm doing training and various other things and sorting out resources. You don't really, like I said, as long as you can see the screen, that's fine. And then you can make sure you can see my dog. You don't need to see me, that's why I'm behind the dog. This is Willow. And if you want to follow Willow, she has a QR code too. Just for fun. I put her on Instagram, she gets more followers than I do. Because she looks like that, and I don't. So anyway, so that's me. Yeah, I live in the UK. They tend in our band to get me to play keyboards, even though really I'm a sax player. I don't seem to know what to do with saxophones in the current church I'm in, so I'm slowly teaching them. I've only been in this church less than a year because we moved house, and before that I ended up playing almost every week because I was their keyboard player and they didn't have, we had one of those really odd bands. I don't know how big your churches are, ours aren't that big. When you've got musicians, you go, yay, and then you go, we've got what? So we had a keyboard player most of the time, me, a guitarist most of the time, and we had 2 violinists, or 1 violinist sometimes, and we had a bass viol player. Bass viol looks like a cello, but it's got 6 strings and no frets. Played by Mary, she's 83, she's lovely. And she was up for doing modern songs as long as I gave her a decent arrangement of them. Because a lot of modern songs only have 4 chords in them and she was really bored. As long as you can give an arrangement for the people you're working for, then that's all good. So, Dorico, why Dorico? Dorico is used by some other people. Has anybody seen this sing hymnal thing at all? So all the music in the sing hymnal was done by Dan Crider, who works for Hymnworks, and all of this was done in Dorico. Now when you look at it, you go, but their time signature is different, and their clefs are different. That's because he's clever. And you can, in our software, you can change those kind of things if you want to. So he's using actually our notes and the standard notes, but he's actually using some different options for their particular house style, and he's changed the paragraph styles for their text and everything else. But all the music, yes, was done in Dorico in that one. And then I found out yesterday, because I only met Dan in person yesterday morning. I've met online and everything else, but I only met him in person yesterday. And then I met somebody who told me the praise charts use Dorico. I had no idea they used Dorico. You can buy Dorico files off them. So the stuff that praise charts do, you've seen the praise charts thing, it's downstairs. You can apparently also buy Dorico files from them. And they use Dorico for things. And 9 months ago, they didn't use Dorico. Apparently something happened a year ago. Some announcement about Finale users. I'm sorry, it wasn't our fault.
Too soon.
We're just trying to, too soon. How long do you want me to wait? But it wasn't our fault. Sorry, we're honestly here trying to help you out. Honestly, like I said, I've used Finale, but only a little bit. I've used Sibelius. I worked at Sibelius for 10 years. I've done the switch from one program to another. We understand. We are an approachable team of people who can help you with things. So don't get stuck. Mainly, don't panic. So that's what I'm going to do. So. I'll point you to some of these. There's all sorts of resources and things you can use, and we'll look at Dorico in a second and some various things, but there's all sorts of resources you can use. Please don't do what some people I know have actually done, which is, I'm going to try a project in Dorico. I think I'll start by doing an entire opera. which somebody's just done and had done. They just, I mean, it worked, but they asked an awful lot of questions. You know, pick something small, and actually pick one of our guided tutorial things. And there are lots of options available. If you use this QR code on your phone, or use dorico.com/getting started, we've put together a first steps guide. It's I can't point. How can I point to that? It doesn't matter. You can see it. You know, so it tells you how to install stuff first, in case you need it. But then there's a first steps guide. It's available as an online web help, or a PDF, or a video follow along. And it's me. I'm sorry, but you have to follow me on the video follow along. So download the PDF and follow that. Now it's a guided. It's going to teach you all the things you need to know. And some people really like that, and some people go, it's a lot of pages. I don't have time for that right now. So I have a smaller version. That's why I'm going to keep giving you my email address. If you're just going to say, actually, what would really work for me is email me. If you all email me at the same time, it's going to take me a couple of days to get back to you all. But ask me when you get stuck. For I'd like to know, or I do this. Is there a lesson on this? And if we don't have one, then I'm looking at creating a few others at the moment. We're also going to do some Zoom sessions. So there's lots of YouTube tutorials we already have, and live streams and that kind of thing. But I'm going to do some Zoom sessions. Annoyingly, I'm not in your time zone. So we started doing some Wednesdays, and then realised also Saturday's going to be a good idea. Because then hopefully those of you who also have to work during the week, you know, there's hopefully a suitable one you can do. So the links for these, they will be Eventbrite links, but annoyingly they're not available till Monday. So that's why that's the same QR code for my email address. Email me and I can send you these links if you need them for kind of how you would sign up for those sessions, if you need them. So you know, there are various options that you can use to help you get started, because otherwise, unfortunately, especially for people using Finale, you're going to kind of go, oh, I'm stuck, and I'll just go back to using Finale. And then at some point, you're going to start Finale, and it's not going to work. We don't know exactly when. At the moment, it's all fine. It should work. Potentially a Mac OS update or something could, you know, there isn't any support from their end anymore, and we'll help as much as we can, but, you know, we're just trying to, you know, help with some of those. But I'm also going to show you a bunch of things that hopefully would be useful to you to be able to do in Dorico as well. So I'll do that. Has that QR code worked? I'm just seeing the edge of it falling off the screen here, but I don't know if that doesn't matter. I'll show you another one in a minute anyway. So let's dive in and use some stuff in Dorico. So I'm presuming none of you actually want to do film music. Is that correct? He wants to do film music. The person who said it was too soon, he wants to do film music. So we can do, but we're not going to do that right now. But they do tend to use large orchestra stuff. So now, are you working in, I mean, I noticed in the app when you amusingly sign up as a Brit, and it says, are you a small church or a large church or anything else? And then they kind of categorise it, and they go, you know, 50 to 100 people. Yeah, we're quite big. Oh, that's a small church. Okay, so I don't know what kind of ensembles you're arranging for, so I'm going to kind of talk about various different sizes. I'm presuming nobody is probably doing this kind of film size orchestra. I mean, who has 12 French horns anyway? Unless you really have a budget and you're paying people or something, you know, so you don't have those kind of things. However, just very quickly while I'm in this project and since it's open, what the problems you would have with you know, this size of, you know, of everything, is that if you tried to put all of these people on a score, do any of you conduct, you know, any size of orchestra? Yeah. These staves are going to be particularly small for you to read when you've got to get 12 French horns and all of these other instruments on there. So you end up with printing this, and it's not readable, which is not very helpful. So the other thing you do is you then make a version where you make all the staves bigger, and then you get this, which is just a mess, because everything's now bigger, but of course it all collides into each other. Also not very useful. What you really want is a short score version where you've got less staves that you can make bigger. So you know what all the French horns are doing, but you don't need an individual staff for all of them. You need an individual part, but in the score you don't need all of them. So we created this feature called condensing. It takes all of these individual instruments, and you just go into the edit menu and you turn on condensing. I like it, so I've got a shortcut for it. And it makes less staves. Here we go. So all my horns are now on 2 staves to conserve space. But I can tell exactly what's going on. These A6 labels are done automatically. You can choose what the condensing groups are and everything else, but for large ensembles, it works really well. It also looks at the source material. So these flutes are saying, well, we've got different rhythms, so we're going to use 2 stems. Effectively layers in Finale, voices in Sibelius. Effectively, you know, you've got 2 stem directions, 2 rhythms on the same stuff. And it's doing that automatically. And also down here, where we've got clarinets, they're all playing the same rhythms and effectively chords. It's sort of an analysis type thing almost. I know exactly what chord they're playing now because they're not on individual staves. So all of that it's doing automatically based on the music. Excuse me. The bassoons here, there's a bassoon 1, it's labelled 1 here at the top, the rest are put in automatically underneath. There's a second bassoon down here, but it means all of these are still individual parts. So you can have a condensed score for you as the conductor. In a lot of cases, people never bothered with this bit because you're only doing it for your own purposes, and it took too long to bother. So you struggled along with something that was too small to read or something else as a conductor. It's really easy. With one button and you can do it. There's also useful things like divisi, but did anybody have enough string players that they ever need to divide the desks up? Have you got that kind of size ensemble? There's a shake of the head over there. Oh yeah. You want to see this guy borrow some of his strings. So if you need it, you can also do things like divisi. At any point on the staff, you can just say, actually, I need to divide my, in this case, violas. They have enough violas, they're doing divisi. It's a spill, of course they do. So you can divide things up and add, divisi. So we've got proper features for these things. You don't just have to add a staff and kind of, add other things and then remove it again. You can use the divisi feature. Dorico will automatically work out when those staves should appear or not. You can condense it in the score. You can have it then fully expanded automatically for the parts, all those kind of things. So there's lots of very neat options for those, which is very nice. Now, yes, I'm presuming, from the look of some of you, yeah, this is all too big. I don't need to do any of this. This is all too complicated. So let's start again with a new little project, and we'll use that instead. So I'll get rid of this one entirely. So let's do. I'll start from the very beginning. A very good place to start, according to somebody who. Anyway, shall we use that one? Let's actually. I'll use this one because then I can see what I'm gonna do to start off with. So anybody know this song? It is number 181 in the hymnal. I did check. So what I'm going to do is I'll just do a very quick bit of some kind of note entry, basic getting started type things. Now there's a whole bunch of options that you can do for this, and you've probably all got a slightly different way of doing it in Finale, because there are a few ways. There's the simple entry and the speedy entry, and then there's a Sibelius way of doing it. Some of you have a MIDI keyboard, some of you don't have a MIDI keyboard. So there's all sorts of different options. So that's what we're going to also cover in much more detail in these Zoom sessions, and we cover online, so that you can then pick the one that works for you. Don't presume when you start Dorico at the beginning that it's going to be in that mode, because actually, even simple things like, we tend to be a little bit more Sibelius-like, where you choose the value, the rhythmic value first, and then you choose the pitch. Whereas Finale tends to choose the pitch first, and then you choose the rhythm. So there's kind of some people instantly go, this is all backwards. In Dorico, you can switch it around whichever way you like, but of course we had to give you a default, and annoyingly, our default is not the Finale default, so I apologise. But you can switch it. So if it's not your default, you can find it. Now, so over here, I'm basically on the right-hand side. I'm going to duplicate what's on the left-hand side, so you can kind of see how you would build this kind of thing up. Now we've got these panels on the right-hand side, so all these buttons, and when I click on them, they expand to open various things. So you can do things in different keys, obviously. Please ignore the tonality system option at the top, unless you're writing in 24 EDO, meaning 24 divisions of the octave, 24 notes in an octave. I know you have players that play in that, but they're not supposed to, so don't use it. You don't want 3/4 tone sharps and flats intentionally, generally, in worship music, because people go, what? What? Somebody's playing out tune. No, it's intentional. So ignore that. Anyway, key signatures are there, time signatures are here, your tempos, your dynamics, there's panels for all of these things, but I'm going to use some shortcuts for things. If you would like them, they're available online anyway, but I did bring some of these things, and also I've got some other things downstairs if we run out of things. But things like, we do shortcut cards for things to kind of remind you of what some of the shortcut things are, and you can stick them on your desk. Yes. So I brought some of these, and there's also some downstairs on the Hymnworks stand. So if you go into the village bit on the far left wall, about halfway down, in line with the hymnals, because funnily enough he did the hymnals, there's some of these things down there as well. So, but there's a bunch of them up here, so we'll put those down. Now, so I'm going to use a bunch of shortcuts for things. You don't need to know right now what they are. You don't need to learn what all of the Dorico shortcuts are, because you're not going to need them all. You'll just start to pick up the bits of ones that you use and the ones you want. So don't read that shortcut card and go, I must, as bedtime reading, memorize all of these. You don't need to know them all, really you don't. But they have been put together in really nice ways to make it intuitive. But it's only intuitive if you've never used any software before. Because if you've already used Finale or Sibelius, you have preconceptions about how these things work. And they might be slightly odd preconceptions about how these things work. So, for example, Sibelius users, you all think a quarter note, I call it a crotchet in the first place anyway, a quarter note is 4, it's shortcut 4. And all the Finale users go, no, it's 5. And we didn't do it to be annoying, but in Dorico it's 6. And there's a good reason. At least I can explain why. So, a lot of people use the numeric keypad because Finale and Sibelius were designed in the 90s when you had a full-size keyboard. Now, how many people are using a laptop? Or at least at some point use a laptop? And how many of you use Macs? And how many Mac keyboards don't have a numeric keyboard? Yeah, a lot of them. So we couldn't presume anymore that you had one. If you have one, you can use it, but we couldn't presume that it was going to be there, and we didn't want you to have to go and buy an extended keyboard or a plug-in USB thing, and the number of people like me who travel and need to use these things. And we didn't want to have a thing that floats over the top of things and gets in the way either. So you have these note durations over here, but they're all the numbers across the top of the keyboard. And we have these mouse mats as well, which has kind of shortcuts on them for people who still use mice. So this says, for example, it's got kind of a big, long duration is a big number, 9, and a short note is a short duration, 1. And when you kind of work from one to the other, it's so turned out that crotchets, / quarter notes, are 6. But it means if you've got your finger on that button and you just go left, doesn't matter what the number is, you know you've got 8th notes, and then you've got 16th notes, and then you've got 32. So it makes sense. What I also used to find with Sibelius, because I use that a lot, is I'd use my right hand on the keypad, and I'd use my left hand on the MIDI keyboard. And honestly, even though I've got, I've done exams in piano and stuff, a long time ago, I'm not really as good with my left hand as I am with my right, because I don't practice. So really, I want to play the keyboard with my right hand. So what I really find useful now in Dorico is having a keyboard in my right hand, and on my left hand, I can use those numbers across the top of the keyboard. Now, with all this talk about shortcuts, if you hate our shortcuts, you can change them. So if you want your shortcuts to be more like Finale, I can tell you how to change them. In the preferences in the key command section, I can give you details of how to change some or all of the shortcuts. But as soon as you do that, our shortcuts are less intuitive to learn because you're changing some of them. So you can do it, but none of our materials that we generate for how to learn Dorico will use those, but you can use them if you want. The praise charts guy admitted yesterday, he's moved a load of our shortcuts to somewhere else, and he's programmed some buttons to act like meta tools. You can do it if you want, but it's not our default state, using Dorico. I'll get on with it. So I'm going to use some shortcuts. I'm going to say Shift K, and if this little box here is called a popover, not just because we're being cute, but because it makes sense, it pops over the top of things. So it's called a popover. And in here, I'm going to type E flat, because I want this to be in, I just realised it's not an E flat. I play an E flat at home. This one's in D, sorry. So I'll do capital D, there we go, so we've got 2 sharps. You can also enter 2S for 2 sharps, and you can enter 3B for 3 flats, and those kind of things. There's all sorts of things you can type into popovers, but this one's in D. I'm then going to type Shift M for meter, and I'm going to type 3/4, so 3/4, and that will put me in 3/4. But I want a pickup over here, so I'm going to type comma 1.5, because I want 1.5 beats pickup in 3.4. I'm sorry, it's a slightly confused example. Normally you just type 4/4 or 6/8. No, I mean, that's all fairly standard. But this, I don't know if you're aware of Mr. Getty and Mr. Townend, but they decided there was a pickup to this one. If you've got the fully written out version, it probably doesn't. But there you go. So we've got 3/4 and we've got a pickup. Great. So now I want to put some notes in here, and I'm using my MIDI keyboard over here. So I can use one hand on MIDI keyboard, and I can use my note durations, and I'm just going to do it old school style, pick a duration, pick a pitch. If you're a Finale user, you'd do it the other way around. You'd pick a pitch, and then you'd pick a duration. And you can do that. You can press K, and I don't know if you can tell up here, there's a little button here that lights up. If I press K again, it turns off. So you can toggle this mode on and off, and you can set it as your default. So you will be able to set your system to be in your favourite Finale mode for this particular style of note input, okay? And when you don't remember what any of these shortcuts are or anything else, that's why you've got my email address. So you can email me later and say, you said something about, that's fine, email me and ask me. No such thing as a stupid question, it's fine. So, quick bit of note entry, I'll try and make this quick. So, so I want that note, and then I want that one, and then I want that one, and then I want that one, and then I don't have to enter rests. All I'm going to do is say 8th note, and I'm going to press the space bar, and you see it moved along the rhythm grid. This is our little rhythm grid here, and it's currently set to 8th notes by default, which is handy. And it's moved along that, and now I can say like this, and then I can say I want to move up by a quarter note. It's really hard not to say crotchet. It really is.
Did you say crotchet?
Oh yeah, but when I say hemi, demi, semi-quaver, do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Talk to that lady. I probably won't. We won't. I don't think they write hemi, demi, semi-quavers in this kind of music. So you can go. I'm just going to go through and do this. Now, when I want a dotted note, I can just double tap the note. So 6 is the shortcut I'm going to use for quarter note. But if I type 66, I get a dotted note, which could be a bit more useful. So that's a normal one. 66 gives me a dotted one, which is quite nice. Really quick, because we originally said you have to press full stop, period. You call it. Yes. Sorry. Internal translation in my head. Where am I? What language? Yeah. Somebody translate, please. But yeah, just tap the number. So you want a dotted 8th note, you just type 55. So it's a quick way of doing it. Like I said, don't remember all the shortcuts, but that one's quite useful. How far should we get? So we'll do 55, and then do that, and then we want, where am I? You get the idea. We all know this song anyway. So I've got some of the notes in. Great. Now I want to add some other things. So let's say we want to add the chords. So I'm going to choose a note here, and I want to add the chords. You can use our popover. Well, we run out of letters in the English language, so we couldn't use Shift C because we used that for clefs. So it's Shift Q for chords. Makes it sound vegetarian, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm having corn for dinner, and I'm just entering my chords. So you can just type, G, and then move on, and you can, move around and type D. And type in your chords. But if you've got a MIDI keyboard, you can also just play them in on your keyboard. So there's an A, and then you can type, D over F sharp and G, and you can play them in from your keyboard if you want as well. Which can be quite nice if you're just going, I don't know what it is, but it's and again, so Dorico says it's a C sharp diminished 7th, and a bunch of your musicians just went, can I just play C sharp? I don't know. Don't do that to them. Don't do that to them. But it can be sometimes nice to put them in that way. So some people like it. So that's how I get all of these chords in. Then you want some lyrics. So you can type the lyrics in. So if you do Shift L for lyrics, let's press the spacebar, can type the, and if you put a hyphen, then you can type lyric, and if you press the spacebar, then you'll get melisma. So it's it's fairly, but of course the lyrics please exist. Any of this type of music, I would just pop over to something like the CCLI website or whatever your favourite place to get lyrics is. Copy the lyrics from somewhere that's already typed them out because they don't have any typos, hopefully. And then either stick it into ChatGPT to hyphenate them for you, or use an online hyphenator. You just literally, I'll do it now, you paste the lyrics in, you press hyphenate by text, and it goes, okay, there you go, there's the hyphenated version. And then you copy the hyphenated version out of here, or out of ChatGPT, or whatever system you want to use for those, whatever your favourite is. And then when you do Shift L in here, you just press paste, 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 paste. And the capital G, I checked, the capital G in ground is actually, for some reason, in the song select version. I don't know why, but so yeah, do check your sources. But there you go. So actually, I can see why I'm not, but anyway. So when you want to do things like lyrics, you can type them in and everything else. But actually, if you can find them somewhere else, then there are other quick ways of getting those in. So that's a useful bit. Now, I'm going to speed up a bit. I know I'm already going quick. This is my kind of full score version of this, and I want to add some other instruments. So I'm going to go to setup mode over here, and I'm going to say we want to add some other instruments for this. Let's add some strings. Down in the bottom left corner, I can add different types of player. A single player, so if it's a single violinist, I can add a section player, so it's a desk of violins all playing this, so it depends on the size of your ensemble. And then, or you can cheat and use the add ensemble button. So I'm going to choose add ensemble, I'm going to say string section. It says, would that include 2 violins, a viola and a cello? And you say, yes please. So now I've got a string section added, which is nice. And then, just for speed, please do not arrange this way. But for speed, I need to get a bunch of notes in. So go with it. So you've got this orange line here for entering notes. You know, you can move it around along the rhythm grid and everything else. You can press the up and down arrows. I'm just pressing the arrow keys to move it around. This will be me putting notes in. But I don't want to do it for 5 individual stringed instruments because we don't have time. So you can cheat. You can hold down shift and you can extend the caret over all the string parts. So if you play a 5-note chord, what key are we in? G. If you play a 5-note chord, then you'll get 1 note of the 5 notes of your chord on there. And then if I choose, I could choose a different note value and everything else and press, you know, something else. Now this isn't going to be a fantastic arrangement at all, but you could work this way and do it this way. But even this is too slow for this session. It's already 5:30. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is properly cheat. I'm going to say, let's do up to here. And there's a function in Dorico for generating notes from the chords. And I've got chords, so let's generate some notes. And if you can't remember where something is in Dorico, press J for the jump bar. Or remember my name's John and it's my button, or whatever you want to remember. Press J. It's in the middle of your keyboard, or whatever you want to remember. The jump bar is really handy. Mac users, you are aware of something on your Mac called Spotlight. When you can't find something, you use Spotlight to find it. This is the Dorico equivalent. PC users, I guess you ask Cortana, how does that go? Does that work? I haven't done that in a while, but we used to have a car in Britain called a Cortina, and it's anyway. So you press J for the jump bar, and then you can type the thing you want. So I know I want to generate something, and it says generate chord symbols from selection or generate notes from chord symbols, and I want generate notes from chord symbols. So I just press J and then press enter, and I don't need to find it in a menu somewhere in the program. It's found me that thing and it's run that command for me. So the jump bar can be a really useful way of getting these things. Now, I don't have time to look at all the options. Sounds about right, press go. There we go. So now my string parts have got some, so we've got, what have we got? Do not arrange music this way. I just need to get the notes in. Now, I need to add some other stuff. So quickly, I'm going to say we also want to add, let's add some brass players. So there's various things, you can build at your sections. So you could say I want 4 horns, if you want to do it this way, and I want, let's say we've got 3 trumpets and a trombone. There we go. So I've kind of made shorthand for various things. So I'll add some brass instruments. Great. And then let's add some woodwinds while I'm here as well. So we'll do more ensembles. Now in ensembles, if you've done kind of orchestra type stuff, there's kind of some standard shortcuts. So if you say things like, you start typing 4, it says, well, you could have 4, 2, 3, 0 brass if you wanted. So 4 horns, 2 trumpets, 3 trombones. There's some standard settings. And there's also things like if you type 2, 2, 2, 2, it says 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons. It's a lot quicker than typing 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2. Just type 2, 2, 2, 2. And then I've now got some winds here. Now what's the problem? They're all in the wrong order because that's the order I added them in. So at the bottom down here, there's a little sort option, and I can choose orchestral, and it'll sort them into orchestral order. So now I've sorted all my instruments into orchestral order. Good. And my voice is currently down here. That's fine. So let's just add a few more notes quickly. So now the jump bar is also really useful in that when you then press J, it remembers the last thing you did. So I've not had to type anything else. I've pressed J, press enter, strings, go, blah, brilliant. Right, more string notes. Good. Now I want some notes for everybody else. So let's say we start with the woodwinds. I also want to see my voice because these singers. Are there any singers in the room? This is a dangerous conference to ask. Yeah. You always like to be on the top. You like to know what's going on. You want to. So if you can sort your instruments, I'm going to take this voice. I'm just going to drag it up to the top, up here in the list, and it's put the voice at the top, so now I can see what's going on. So at any point, you can just move them around. So now let's say the woodwinds. Let's go. Let's just go to there, and then let's press J, generate some notes, notes per beat this time, use the rhythm from the voice part, go. And it always does it based on the range of the instruments. So Dorico knows what the instruments are, so it'll always give you notes in the range of that instrument, which is handy for me because I don't know them all. I'm a sax player, what do I know? I know how to transpose an E flat and B flat. More than that, I know how to make a big noise. So now for the, let's just chop those notes off. I don't need all of those. Lovely. And then here, let's do the next few bars from brass. So, yeah, let's just go to there. So let's do the same for the brass. Yeah, do the same, go. So now I've got this. So it now goes. You've all come in too early. And then the brass, they're always going to come in too early. So let's give them some dynamics. So you can do dynamics with that panel on the right hand side, but we don't want to use that. We want to press Shift D for dynamics, and you can then type things like P. But I want it for all of the players. You can either copy it to all of the brass players like this, or when you want to do a range of things, let's say from here to here, so all of these bits, we want to put in some dynamics, Shift D, and we'll say at that point, go from M, P, use a hairpin, and go to F. Oh, wrong way, wrong hairpin. Oops. Let's do that again. Oh dear. It doesn't do everything for you. Hairpin's the thing that looks like a hairpin, the greater than, less than symbol. Everything else is just the standard letters. So then you can say, you could. And if you don't like the sounds, changing the sounds is also really easy. So you get a bunch of sounds of Dorico, these are the default ones, but you can change them. If you like the Garitan sounds, we do what's called a playback template for all the Garitan sounds. It will just load all the ones from Finale if you want to. If you've got something like Note Performer, which is a third-party library you can buy, you can use a playback template for Note Performer. If you've got more money than sense, you can go and buy libraries from Spitfire and VSL and all sorts of things. You can use them all in Dorico if you want to. You're going to need an extra hard drive to install them because they're massive, which is a new word I've just created. So I'm going to say we'll use Note Performer, and we'll just press Apply and Close. It will get rid of all of the things I did have. It will get rid of this little green play button, and then the green play button will come back. Good. Now it's loaded Note Performer. So now when I press play at the beginning, it's now using Note Performer settings instead. So if we only play the brass, if I only select those, they do sound different. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe you want double F. Anyway, whatever, it's changeable. When you want to do things like adding slurs and articulation, so you can select a note or a range of notes, you can press S for slurs. So, you can do this kind of thing if you want to. And then let's say, let's add some staccato dots. You've got these staccato dots and articulations over here. They all have shortcuts as well. So you can kind of quickly work through, this is going to be terrible, but it doesn't matter. There we go. Now, I've done it for one instrument, and you really don't want to have to do this for all of them. So you select all of these notes, and press copy, and you select all the places you want to go to. And instead of just pressing paste, because you get all the notes and everything else, in the edit menu, there's a paste special for paste articulations, and it will literally just paste all the articulations for those instruments, which is a bit easier. I don't know, I'm going to do something similar in brass. Oh no, oh that's really, no. Oh well, let's leave it. Yeah, go on, let's leave it. Yeah, whatever, let's make it up. So just the brass bit is, let's give them some slurs. Save them some tonguing, it'll be fine. Okay, so then we'll take these bits and we'll copy those, and we'll go to these, and then you'll add a shortcut for paste articulations if you use it a lot, then you get articulations or however you want to. So we'll do it from there, and you can sort out all the bits you need. So now, building all those up. Now
John, may I interrupt with a question?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Depends if it's relevant.
I'm going back and looking at the melodic line, the solo line, in the third measure.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly show me how to put that G over A chord on beat 3 instead of on 3.5? So that my
The chord
harmony,
symbol?
so that my all that orchestral stuff changes on a beat instead of following the.
Oh,
rhythm.
these ones here. So these notes here.
Well, actually, the chord symbol.
Oh, the chord symbol. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you want to move things, you can drag them often, and there's a shortcut which you just hold down Option or Alt if you're on Windows, and then you use the arrow key. So if I do Option right, then it moves it to the right, and if I do Option left, it moves it to the left.
Okay.
So it's
Will-
moving the chord symbol.
Will the instruments follow that chord symbol harmony, or are they going to
No.
follow the melodic harmony?
They'll follow all of these notes here. So if I want to move all of these notes to the left, I press Option left, and all of those notes move to the left. And if I use Option right, then they all go to the right. And it will leave a rest, but I can sort that out.
Then I can change them all.
Yeah, so it will move the notes. So basically what's happening is, when I was inputting notes, I had this rhythm grid. Let me just move this. We've got this rhythm grid here,
Right.
which is showing me the strong and weak beats. By default, when you start Dorico, it's in 8th notes, and you can change it. So in the bottom left corner down here, you can change the rhythm grid to be anything you like. So if you're working on a piece that uses a lot of 16ths, choose 16ths, and then when you have your grid here, you've got 16ths now. So now, Option left and right will move items along the rhythm grid in 16ths instead, or in 8ths. But in this particular case, 8ths was
Thank you very much.
That's all right? No, that's fine. It was a relevant question.
Good.
Now, so you can move a note. Now, in various bits of software, you can move a note. You can move by dragging it. Don't do that because it's really not an accurate way of doing things. You know, dragging things to a staff line or anything else generally isn't very accurate. Using a shortcut's often better. So Option up and down, it will move things diatonically. There is a shortcut for chromatic. You didn't get there. I wasn't looking. And Option is the same move key. So Option right is what I was then using to move it. And you see, depending on where you put this in the bar, in 3/4, Dorico will renotate it based on the fairly standard notation rules that somebody in the room is going, I don't like that. But you know, it follows the notation rules. Now, like lots of things in Dorico, there's a default setting for lots of these things. And if you want something else, there is also a way to change it. I'm not going to go into all the details of how now, but there are set rules for how things, notationally should work, and Dorico will generally follow those. And if you want one of the other options, you can change it to those as well, in all sorts of meters. So if you did this piece in 6/8, you'd automatically get different theming and different note grouping. It's really good for composition students, this, when they're first learning, because they don't have to learn all of these rules that you already know. It will automatically, if I put this piece in 6/8, it's going to make a mess. It's now in 6/8 instead. So everything. If I press undo, it goes back to being in 3/4 again. So it'll do those kind of things automatically. So it's very flexible to put things in, change your mind, move things around. To get all of those things along. And just quickly, because I found this the other day and actually played with it, I thought it might be relevant to you. I'm going to show you. Now, I've changed this voice to piano, and by default in Dorico, the sound is going to be oo or ah. Aren't they annoying? But it does. However, there are a couple of programs either coming out or available as an extra. This isn't a Dorico thing, but it's a VST plugin, which will sing lyrics to you. So there's two main ones I know of at the moment. One of them's in beta, so I tried it, and it was in Christ alone came out as in Christ, as in Christus. And I said to them, they went, yeah, we know, we need to change it. And so it's still in beta and they're still working on it. But this one is a little bit, there's a couple more steps to set it up, but let's give it a go. So, I wasn't expecting the login, but okay. So this is just a demo version from this company. They don't know I'm doing this either, but they have this demo. So there's a plugin here. This one's called Synthesizer V. This is just a demo voice they've got. Now what it requires is a MIDI file to work from, and our Dorico MIDI files contain lyrics. So I've already exported it. I've taken the voice part and I've already exported it, and I've got this MIDI file out of Dorico. No, don't play it to me. So I've got this MIDI file, and I'm going to drop the MIDI file, hopefully, he says, into this this other program. Come on, drag it in there. There we go. Yeah, new project, I guess. Yes. Import. Yeah, clean it. Yeah, okay. So there we go. So now we've got all the pictures in here in this program. It's still only going. That's not helpful, but you can load a voice. So they've only given me one demo voice because this is just trial. I've only got 12 days to do this, so it's a good job you're all here today. So if I choose the voice from here, that's all I've done, and press play, it knows the lyrics out of the MIDI file I gave it.
In Christ alone, my hope is found.
Now, because I've added that in Dorico as a plugin here for my voice, in the track inspector, if I say use that plugin, that's all I'm going to do in Dorico. And I'm going to say, what does it sound like?
In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song.
That's called for rehearsal.
Yes, I'll be proud. For through the darkest proud and strong. What heights of love, what depths of peace.
They only give you about 30, 40 notes. I've run out of notes. So it stops singing it. Because it's the trial. So try it out. Why not? Give it a go. But for rehearsal, that could be quite handy. Now, I believe, from what I've seen, there's a choral thing, and there's various other voices, and there's male voices. I don't have any of those to show you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to aim to do some live streams on how to do this and set it up and everything else. But all it's really doing, what the useful thing I have found, is that if you needed to change something, if one of the words isn't pronounced correctly, then you can change it in their little plugin. So you export, generally all your lyrics, but if something doesn't quite sound right, because it's changing it to phonetics, you can tweak it to sound more correct. So if you're, singing to that, but obviously this song seems to be fine.
Fierce was wrong.
She said Fierkist.
She did say Fierkist, actually, that's a good point. Yeah. So here, where it says Fierk, I'll stick an E on it, I'll make it fierce. Let's see, can I play it? I think I'm playing here.
Burn through the fiercest drought.
There you go. So, you can tweak it. You can also tweak the pitch a bit as well if you want, but that'd be more like your actual singers.
Or your sax player.
I'm a sax player, I'm not in tune in the first place. What do I know? I just pull the mouthpiece out a bit and then I'll back off. So basically it's another option. It's a plugin that you could potentially use. I honestly don't know, I don't think it's very expensive, but I don't know all of the options, I just know it works. And I thought for this audience of people, you're probably generating stuff that you want, for other people. So if you needed now to export an audio file from Dorico, and you can choose an MP3 or don't choose a FLAC file, or probably not even a WAV, probably just choose an MP3, it would export an MP3 of that with the singer. We have a mixer in Dorico, so if you use the mixer, you can balance everything. Because often you might find one of the plugins happens to be slightly louder than one of the others, even though you've written in the dynamics. So this is kind of your overall balance and things. You can use VST effects if you want. If you want to add reverb, we do all of that. Steinberg invented VST. We've stolen a bunch of VSTs out of Cubase. So we've got plugins and reverbs and those kind of things if you want them. We also, if you need it, we have down here a key editor. So if you have used anything like a DAW before, you can edit things in the key editor here. And you can edit these notes in a key editor and it will change the pitches for you, and that kind of stuff if you want to. You can also, if you play in live from a metronome, so if you're a keyboard player who puts a metronome on and plays in live from a piano like that one, I don't have the money for that one, it will do that. You can record all the MIDI data in live if you want to. Dorico will then show you the live MIDI data down here. So you can extend the note and it won't change how it sounds, how it looks, because you're just changing the playback. If you play a note and it plays slightly early, you'll hear it play early when you play it back, but it will notate nicely. Are you aware of quantization?
Yes.
Good, great. So when you quantize stuff in most programs, like in a DAW, it moves the beginning of the note so it's bang on the money. It's in exactly the right place. The problem is you lose the live feel of what's going on. So what's nice sometimes is you want a live feel, but you don't want that notation. You want it to look exactly correct, and that's what Dorico does. When we quantize, we don't quantize the MIDI data down here. We only quantize the score. You can throw away the data if you want, but by default, we would just quantize the look so it's correct and you're getting nice looking notes because that's what you actually want on a page. But the feel you can get a live feel. You can have it at a push, something a bit early, you know, all of those kind of things. And you can edit it all down here. There's a full MIDI editor and everything else if you wanted to.
Hey John, is there a way to do the opposite of that? So I have students who bring MIDI into Dorico all the time, and because of sample libraries, like legato triggers,
Yep.
you have to trigger legato samples a little bit earlier to get that transition. And so they'll, I mean, especially in Note Performer, if they're using Note Performer, it'll sound off, you know, and they really want to hear it according to notation. Is there a way to
Yes.
snap the MIDI to reflect the notation more accurately?
So you can either throw away the live MIDI data so that the notation and the MIDI will line up. But
Okay.
for sample libraries, you want it to trigger early,
Right.
but you don't want to have to move all the notes early, and you possibly only want to do it for the legato samples because they're going to be slightly earlier than the staccato samples, because annoyingly, sample libraries don't line these up,
Right.
or the dynamics. Don't get me started.
Is there
But what
a
it
way-
will do, what you can do is in our expression maps. So in, let's say, this expression map, for example, if you're not worried about expression maps right now, you don't need to know. Don't worry about it. So you can choose a specific technique, and there's a delay option here, and you can set a negative delay. It's like a track delay in Cubase. So that when I'm using a Spitfire library, for example, their legatos always trigger, you have to trigger them early to get them to sound right.
Right.
You have to trigger it up to 100 milliseconds early. So you can put in here 100 milliseconds just for the legatos, and they will then trigger early so that they're in line sounding-wise with everything else. And none of that affects any of the notation or the rest of the MIDI data.
Is there a way to delete the live performance data?
Yes,
all
you
in
can
one
also
go?
do that.
Okay.
So if you have played stuff in, this is for anybody, if you've played stuff in from your MIDI keyboard and you're like me and you're not that accurate when you're playing things in, but you want to then reflect the MIDI data, one problem you might get is you play some parts in live with the metronome and you notate some of the others not live, and then you find your live ones don't line up with the ones you've notated, and everything's sounding a bit messy. So what you can do is you can choose the notes either here or here, and you can go to the play menu and you can say reset playback overrides, and that throws away all the live MIDI data so everything lines up and is in time again. So in that case, that's what you want. And I often do that when I played the piano part in because it sounds a bit nice, and then I put the strings in or something else manually, and then go, oh yeah, they don't line up. So that's the throw away that MIDI data and it will sort it out. Yeah. Or if you've got MIDI data from somebody else, don't tell them. Just throw away their live MIDI data and it's all clean again and everything's happy. Just don't tell them. A couple of other quick things. So I want to show you very quickly. Let's do this one. So when you have finished the piece, what I find really helps in rehearsals for when you've got actual full arrangement type stuff is if you can really cut down rehearsal times if you give people a cue of when they're playing, when they've got to come in, when they haven't. If it's a much, it's a longer piece and you would like to cue something, or you're writing a drum part and you just want to put cues above the staff to tell them what's going on from somebody else. Those kind of cues for things. So this is Schubert's 8th first movement. Apparently he'll come back and finish it at some point, but he hasn't finished it yet. So in this one, what we want to do is add some cues quickly, and I haven't got many minutes. So in the cues option down here, I'm going to get Dorico to suggest cues. It's going to find me all the people who haven't been playing for 30 seconds and highlight them in red for a bit, so I can see in this an entire movement who all the people are who might want to cue. So the oboes here in bar 139, sorry, flutes in bar 139 haven't been playing for 45 seconds. That could do with a cue, maybe just to help your rehearsal go a lot better. I'm going to say the violas down here in bar 277, they could do with a cue. So I'll highlight this bar here, highlight this one here, and I'll say I would like to cue from violin 1, please. And it says, here's a little signpost. In the score, you don't normally put cues. You can if you want to, but we don't normally, so we haven't by default. I'm going to have a look at the part. Here now in the viola part, we have a violin cue. So, zoom in here we go. So now we've got all these little notes and rests to put underneath, etc., etc. And you might want to kind of pull a few other things in. So in our properties panel, now in Dorico, in general, for lots and lots of the features, there's a global set of preferences for things. We'll have defined something, and if you don't want it, you can define your own preferences. And then you'll find that in a few little cases, you want to do an override of those. So you can set all of your global preferences in these lovely dialogues with lots of nice images of the things you want. And then at the bottom down here in the properties panel, this is like a track inspector, an inspector in Sibelius, or kind of the details. So for this cue, I can say, show me the slurs that were in the violin part, and it'll bring the slurs in. show me the dynamics from the violin part, because I want them in this case. I don't need the clef, so don't bother with the transposed clef, thanks. But it's a bit too high, so drop it an octave so it fits neatly in the clef, and it's labelled it violin 1/8 VA now, so everyone knows what's going on. Maybe in this case you want, if it's a drum part, you want a rhythmic cue. Maybe you want the rhythmic cue to use rhythm slashes. There are just options you can turn on. And none of these notes are editable in this part. When Schubert comes back and finishes this, if he now changes that violin part, the cues will update automatically because they're dynamically grabbing the notes out of the violin part. So you also don't have to wait till the end of the project to put the cues in. You can put a cue in. If you change the violin part now, it will also update all the cues. That's a bit daft with rhythmic slashes. The viola plays when it's going on. But anyway, so those kind of things are where we've put a feature in that, hopefully makes sense, that adds all the things you want. And there's also one last thing, which I think is probably useful for quite a lot of people, which is just you having, where did I put it? Here it is. Here, just having an extra pair of eyes when you're working on something. Because the thing that messes up rehearsals is accidentally missing out things that you didn't realise you should have done. And sometimes they're not the obvious ones. So we call this proofreading. It's a bit like a spell checker, but for music. So in the bottom right corner down here, I'm going to enable proofreading. It's normally on by default, for some reason it got turned on. So when I choose the items in this list, it's found me 22 things I want to check in this little project. And it's categorised them. So this one says, here, multiple notes require the same string. Now I'm not a violinist, but apparently you can't play that because you'd need the same string. So it's just highlighting for me that would be a problem. It also says the same here in violin 2. But it doesn't say it for the viola because the viola can play that chord because he's got different strings or something. Says the sax player. There's also one here, the oboe. You forgot to add a dynamic for the oboe. Look, it's a bit karaoke. The flute's got a note, but your oboes you forgot. So it's just a quick reminder. Your oboe doesn't know how loud he's supposed to be starting. There's also things like here, you've switched from oboe to cor anglais, but you've given them 0.6 seconds to do it. And unless they're a theatre player, and they're really good, they're not doing that for you. So it's those kind of highlights of things. If you've accidentally hidden the time signature, we're now actually in 3/4 in this bar, but you can't tell because we accidentally hid it. So Dorico says, nobody knows what's going on here. Your rehearsal will crash at this point. Everybody will go, train wreck. So it's just highlighting. Here, you switched to B minor, fantastic, but you were in D. How does anybody know? You might not notice when you're just kind of scanning through the music, but Dorico knows. It's keeping an eye on you. Here, this dynamic is possibly ambiguous. Here, you've written arco. Well, that's kind of assumed. Is it because you copied it out of the cello part by any chance, by accident? Well, they don't need to know. They were already playing. They need to know because they've only just started and they were picked earlier on. So it's these kind of checks. This one, yeah, well, that's assumed as well. This one, you've copied it to the bassoon and your bassoon is wondering how he's going to play arco. So it's these kind of things that you might not actually instantly spot. It's just all of these. Now, if you hate all of these, turn them off. You can turn the proofreading off. But it's just sometimes a useful check. There's a whole bunch of categories of things that we're going to be checking. And you might not like our suggested dynamics. Maybe they're just annoying. Untick the box. Don't bother with the suggested dynamics and leave the other ones on. But the proofreading panel can be a really useful option. So anyway, I've got to stop because it's 6 o'clock. So what I want to basically say is, that's me. That's my dog. Willow. And you can follow her on Instagram. No. If you want to find out how do I find some resources that are suitable for me, we have all sorts of options. And if you took that link for the blog page, but if nothing else, email me and say I need some resources for this, or I need a getting started thing. I've also got a little 20-minute getting started guide. If you've got really no time, you can do 5 bars of what sounds like Eleanor Rigby with some lyrics and some chords and some strings. I'll send you that one. Email me. We're here to help. Keep in touch. There's a forum if you want it. There's a Facebook page if you want it. Not everybody likes those, but they're sort of a useful chat group. Or we can help you. We want you to use the program and not get frustrated with it, and know where these things are, so that you've only got a weekly deadline of creating this. Don't presume you're going to do your entire music by Sunday. Do a little project first. Build it in. And we're here to help. So I am now officially out of time. Thank you for coming. See you soon. I'll leave some of these things on the front somewhere in case you want to grab a shortcut.